Just about everyone has heard of Cinderella. It's one of those fairy stories that's been bouncing around in one form or another for centuries. It was even included in the Grimm Brothers Compendium. The basics of the story are one that everybody knows, largely thanks to Disney, which is of course the most famous version. Now that version stripped out almost all of the darker elements, including the rather infamous scene where the sisters cut off their own toes in order to fit into the glass slippers. But yeah, I would personally have quite liked to see that scene in the Disney version. Admittedly, I probably have some issues. Cinders is another in the recent attempt to take some of these old fairy stories, put a little bit of a new spin on them, and re-release them, particularly with some of the darker elements put back in. Unfortunately, not that toe-cutting scene, which would have been really excellent, and I really do have issues, don't I? Oh dear. Should we just... Yeah, let's start with the gameplay. There kind of isn't any. Thanks for messing with my formula, Noah Cube. This is a game about choices and about consequences, and as such, your interaction is rather limited. So, yeah, I gotta fill this section with something. I know. Knife juggling! Oh, come on. Please. You're no fun. Fine, story it is. The basic plot of Cinderella is one that most people could explain away without any problems. Young girl's mother dies, her father remarries, he then dies, leaving her in the care of her stepmother and her two stepsisters, who treat her like a servant. With the aid of a magical fairy, she manages to attend a ball, win the heart of the prince, and he is forced to troll the land with a glass slipper in order to find the only woman in the land with feet her size. Yeah, it's kind of stupid, but it's a fairy story, so we give it a pass. A lot of the elements and the setup for the story are retained for Cinders, but there's a few new and interesting dynamics added in that this game focuses a lot more on Cinders' relationship to her sisters and why they are the way that they are and the way that they act. This is actually pretty interesting, and it leads to a few really fascinating conversations with both of them, which makes them far less one-note than they are in most other adaptations, to the point where I actually feel kind of sorry for them.
Yes, what could I possibly know about it? Stupid onion. Sounds to me like it's your turn to talk about your life. Well, there's not much to say. Well, that can't be true. It's obvious a lot happened to you and Gloria. You wouldn't be like this otherwise. Besides, you said you wanted a conversation, so tell me. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. When we were children, we lived out in the countryside. Our house wasn't as nice as this one, though. Our father was a military man. He got himself killed in some war, and that left Mother a widow. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be. I hardly ever saw the man. When he was around, he was like a complete stranger, not a proper father at all. Just death meant nothing to us.
In addition to the sisters, several new characters have been added to the story, including the local general store owner and a mysterious shady character whose name is only ever given as Shady Character.
Alright, let's stop here and talk. Not exactly a hiding place, middle of the town, eh, love? Sure could use some more privacy. I'm not going to give you a chance to escape now, and don't try anything stupid. The captain's right on the other side of the street. Remember that. Oh, fine, you little devil. I'll tell you what I know. Just don't yell if I can't remember all the details. I have a short memory. You've heard my question already. What was the message you brought to Camosa? A dashing young gentleman like yourself should have no trouble recalling the last few days. Oh, blazing hell, lassie, you and your adder's tongue. Aye, I remember. So I was out in the woods, resting my head on the ground, enjoying the peace and the quiet that only nature can bring. Calm shiver of the lake, away from the wickedness. Don't digress. Of the city, sleeping like a brat I was. Do you often sleep at dawn? Why were you sleeping by the lake? Now, that's a mighty good question, isn't it, love? Can't say I know the answer though, I just woke up there. All a magical place, the pond in the woods. My auntie used to tell me stories of... Get back to the topic, will you? But I'm on it. I woke up and I heard voices. Thought 'twas just me auntie's stories of the fair folk, you know. Made of light and wisp and prettier than the finest ladies they are. But they were no wisps.
Seriously though, would you trust a guy whose name was Shady Character? Oh well. Besides for the occasional odd character name, the game is very well written. Though it does use that trick where you get a scene from near the end and then the entire thing is done as basically a flashback. It's a bit overused. It's not a trick I personally like, but it's fine here. It doesn't detract in any meaningful way. Also, as someone who feels that we should have more female protagonists in games, I would just like to say that Cinders herself comes across very well. Never feeling like an afterthought that a lot of player characters in general actually end up feeling, regardless of their gender. She's real, she's a real character, she's very well written, and in fact, all the characters are, regardless of their gender. Lengthwise, Cinders comes in at around 4.5 to 5 hours, so it's a bit on the short side. But it does supposedly have at least 3 full endings, so there's probably a bit of replay value there. Overall, I like the story. It's got a couple of good twists, there's some really nice characters, and depending on how you play, the ending's either heartwarming or, based solely on what one of the achievements is, it's probably a good, swift, emotional kick in the bollocks.
The art style for this game is absolutely beautiful. I know that it's not hand-painted, but damn does it look like it does. I'm using this image as an example because, well, just look at it. It's freaking gorgeous, and it's pretty representative. The character designs are excellent and really unique, so absolutely no complaints there. And while the frame rate isn't exactly important in a visual novel, it is worth noting that this game runs at a rock-solid 120 frames per second, so again, no complaints.
The music is fine. It's not massively memorable, but it does do a decent job of setting the right mood and the right tone. As with most visual novels, there's no voice acting, so you'll need to do your own funny voices for all the characters, unless you just want to, watch my Let's Play. What? There's nothing wrong with a shameless plug. Okay. On to the conclusion. So, the 2 big questions. Do I like this game? Yes, I do. Should you buy it? Maybe. Given how short it is, I have difficulty recommending it at the £15 price tag. That being said, if you can catch it in a sale, then give it a go. The story and characters are strong. Just be aware there isn't really anything that could be described as gameplay. And that's really all there is to say about Cinders. I feel like this review's running a little short. Did you just play the credits over me? Well, good. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah.